want to just first say I'm just so grateful to be here with all of you all, seeing some of my favorite people on the dance floor in the audience right now, and sitting with my coworker and, and Dave, who's super cool. So it's just and a legend, you know. And so I'm just grateful. Thank you, Maida. I got started in or exposed. That's what I will say. I was exposed to stepping as a child. My father, you know, he was a bopper and then became a stepper. But I would always see stepping sort of in plain sight at home. I would see him, you know, doing the moves in the kitchen, or I would see him in the hallway, you know. When he was getting ready for stepper sets, he would ask me, should I wear this tie with these shoes? You know, he would have these bright green jackets and matching shoes, and it was just like so cool to be able to help him pick out his socks, you know, to get ready. So I was exposed in that kind of way, you know, as a child, and didn't really know what he was doing, but just kind of knew like this is what we do, you know. And you know, holidays, my aunts and uncles were always stepping together. You know, y'all are from Chicago, you know. You know, holidays, birthday parties, whatever. It's just kind of something that's happening. You don't really pay attention to it because you're so familiar with it. And so when I went to college, I went to school in D.C., HU, and and you know, every time like Maze or, you know, Before I Let Go, one of those songs would come on. Everyone from Chicago would start stepping or doing sort of that like 6-count little cross thing or whatever. So I was like, oh, I gotta learn that. I was from the suburbs, but I knew I knew, you know, stepping, the movement looked familiar to me. So I was like, I gotta learn that. So you know, I do the little cross step, you know, and be able to just blend in or whatever. And when I got home from school, my mother had actually learned how to step. So my parents started stepping together. So I was like, this is different. You know, Dad used to just kind of do it on his own growing up, but now y'all are doing it together. Okay, and Mom's like, yeah, I started taking a class, you know. And so my father had a really good friend named Bill. And so Bill, about, like you said, the 2000s, that's about when I went to school. Bill started teaching everybody in the suburbs how to step. And so because of that, my parents were able to start stepping together. And so, so yeah, when they started doing it together, I was like, I want to learn too. So I started taking some of Bill's classes and, you know, just a little something to be able to get by. And when I would travel, I traveled to Oakland a few times, and my father connected me with a few of his folks in Oakland, and so I was able to go to a few sets there. And I connected with Dave maybe 6 or 7 years ago, at the Logan Center, and I was like, we gotta have a stepping class here, you know, for the summer. So Dave taught some really awesome workshops with us a few years, and you know, so I was just kind of around. It was always something I was around, and you know, just being a dancer, I've always was learning other people's forms of dance, and it was really kind of in COVID where I was like, you know, having these conversations with my father, having these conversations with my aunt, and just talking about the different origins of stepping. And I was like, you know, we really gotta document your journey, you know, specifically, and just more of it, just for the sakes of preservation, you know. So just really excited to hear about projects like the Black Social Dancing Map, and folks like Dave that are continuing to make sure that the origins of the story stay consistent, and teaching teachers, and so yeah, and so working on a documentary right now, documenting my father's journey specifically, but you know, we'll be able to bring in some of the larger history as well.
Hello. Um, um, getting into stepping for me, for most Chicagoans, a lot of us think we know what it is innately. You know, if you're from the hood, you know what stepping is. You got your little moves you do. And so my first experience was back in the early 90s, in 1993. I went to a club called Seagulls. Anybody remember Seagulls down on Michigan Avenue? Those of us who are older. And so the night that we went, it was me and some friends from work, and I got to dancing, doing what I thought stepping was. And in that moment, people were getting off the floor. So I thought people were getting off the floor because I was doing so great. My friends was cheering me on from the table. It wasn't until it was over and the host of the party told me we don't do that foolishness in here that I realized that I didn't know what stepping really was. And so maybe about 6 months later, a friend of mine took me and my best friend to the 50-yard line. Some of y'all may know that as El Matador from back in the day. And at that venue, I saw a brother dance with a young lady so beautifully, and his neck never moved. He was like the coolest guy in the world. And so as a result, I said, I got to learn this. And so he introduced me to a gentleman by the name of Calvin Barnes. Calvin Barnes, as I later learned, was one of the old Mambo Kings from New York who used to dance in the Palladium Ballroom, along with Eddie Torres and some other people. And then later on found out that he was also a Grammy award-winning percussionist. All this stuff he never told me. But I got into the dance. It ended up being something fun. And it was just the beauty of it and the reflection of black love. And I had to have that. And so that was how I got into it. And I was blessed to know him and to know so many of the other elders in the dance. One of those people who was one of the people who was committed to making sure that Steppin survived the disco era, because there was some concern about that happening. Matter of fact, he made this T-shirt. And he has a hat shop on the South Side that a lot of the steppers go to get their clothes. It was funny listening to Dominique talk about that, because I remember when I first really learned, I worked in a print shop and doing dance moves between copiers just to practice, or when it was time to get dressed. I dress like this now. My wife has thrown away all of the red suits and carrying on that I used to wear. She said that stuff can't be around no more. But I had that stuff, and if you go on YouTube, there's a video where I got this red thing we throwing glitter and all that other kind of stuff at a contest. That suit is gone. But it's been an awesome journey, just having a hand in the expansion and the preservation of black culture. I'm so thankful that Mita invited me to do a project with her a couple of years ago, that Dominique invited me to do a project with her a couple of years ago. And that culmination leads to opportunities like this, and I'm thankful to be a part of it.
It's really wonderful to hear how the dance has touched your soul and how you've integrated it into your life as a part of your life. Dominique, something you said, my father started out as a bopper, then became a stepper. Can either one of you, or both of you, elaborate on that? I'm over here like, what is the difference? Can either of you elaborate on
I
that?
can explain a little, and then he's gonna really explain. From what I've been told, bop is the 6 count, the old steppers, and then sort of the newer, when stepping became maybe in the 90s or so, it started to go into an 8 count. So like my father, he still does a lot of the bop, the 6 count, but my mom, since she learned a little bit later, she does more of that 8 count. So that's what I know of it.
Boppers say once you're a bopper, you're always a bopper. Okay. And one of the things that a lot of people don't know is that the word stepping is actually a slang term for stepping. It's not the real name of the dance. So the original name of the dance was the bop. What we do today, back in the early 70s, was what they called the new bop. And the reason they called it the new bop was because the beat, or the primary beat that they danced on, changed, and the direction of the dance slightly changed as well. And so when we talk about count a lot of times ends up being a confusing thing, where count is actually a musical term, but stepping is 8 steps. So in the 90s, when classes started, the original classes started with the 6 count concept, but it wasn't something we focused on. And so some competition ensued, and the 8 count thing popped up, but it was really counting the cadence of 8 steps as opposed to it actually being 8 counts. 8 counts would be Lindy Hop, which is 10 steps, right? But the thing that was genius, and that many of us who started classes didn't recognize when we started classes, is that the elders of the dance had already put an awesome program in place for us to follow. And that was the original count. And that was 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. The beauty of that was that all of the beats corresponded with the ones. And so what that made sure of is that people didn't learn to dance to numbers, which is what's happened since the advent of classes. And so sometimes you'll see newer dancers, and people are asked, why does it seem like they're not dancing to the song? Because they're dancing to the cadence that they learned, right? But some of us went back, sometimes when we were challenged by the elders, went back to the original count, because they had already laid the groundwork for us to be successful. We didn't know it, and that's not what they planned, but it was an ingenious thing, because you were able to let go of the count and listen to the music, because stepping is about the music. It's about the feel. It's about the little things that you've experienced in a song that make you do certain things. And so when I was listening to Dominique talk about her dad, I thought about when my kids were little, and their favorite song was Mother's Finest, I Can't Believe. If you can imagine a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old sitting up singing that song, to this day, it still means something to them. They 30 years old now. But that's what the dance was about. So when we talk about those things, that's the most important part, that we're identifying experiences and then being able to express them with music.
Okay.
I can attest to that.
Okay, I think I understand. But you know what would be even better? If you gave me a little example of some of this wonderful 8-6 bop step, new bop type situation. Would you like to take the floor?
Most certainly.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Can I get a beat?
money than you. They say they lose their appetite when I always front the bill. But baby, there's no need to lie, 'cause I know how you really feel. How you really feel. See, I know why you mad at me. I'm getting more money than you. Getting more money than you. Everybody knows why you do what you do. It's 'cause I'm getting.
Thank you so very much. See, Charles, I see you. Oh, don't leave me now, though. Come on back. We gonna talk some more. Cause you know I gotta ask you some questions about that. One thing that I did notice while you were dancing, and being a dancer myself, sometimes I think about this. It appears that the connection that you can create or generate between the dancers, it's a partner dance, and it's really something that you have to pay attention to one another. And so it seems like you can create a really nice shared connection and shared experience through it.
I'm glad you noticed that. There is a very awesome man out of New York, from the Harlem Swing Dance. Some of you will know historically you'll know him as one of the original George Shorty White, Lindy Hoppers. His name is Frankie Manning. He's also one of the people who taught swing with Norma Miller to Imani Payne. And Frankie Manning said something to me. I only got to talk to him one time before he passed. And he said, every dance is a 2-minute love affair. Make the love count. Right? And so really every dance in this aspect of social dance is a relationship. And so you're getting to a place where you're sharing your interpretation, your feelings with a song, because one of the other greats, a guy by the name of Ice Ray Smith, said you can't dance to a song you don't know because you can't relate to it. So when you dance to something that you can relate to and you're sharing that with a person, it's no doubt that that experience is a relationship, and it's your opportunity to expose that to people who are watching and enjoying it right along with you.
This time I was at, I don't even remember where it was, but it was like this birthday party on the west side, and this song came on. It was this cute little, it was like a red space, and we had our little table with the little red tablecloths.
No house party.
The song came on, and you know, and I'll never forget, my grandma, this is a little off topic, but my grandma was like, you gotta come to my friend's 80th birthday party. I'm like, Grandma, I'm not going to the party. And I was like, all right, cool, I'll go. We got there. Her friend happened to be Shannon Brown, Monica's husband's grandmother. And so Monica was there, and I'm sitting at the table with Monica, like, wait, what is this, grandma? This your friend? So, but I remember the song came up there. We were really, we had a nice little group. So you both are absolutely right with songs having meaning, and you do step into that every time you get on the floor. So.
Yes, you guys gave some really good examples of memories and feelings. And so now we'd like to look at a few memories that you've shown us about your experiences in the stepping world. And I'd like you to, well, that's me. Hi, me.
That's a good memory. Tell us about that one.
Yes. That's my headshot for work. So, I was trying to look all, Well, I am in what is commonly known in the dance community as the zone. It does not matter who is around, in front of, behind, or near. When the eyes close and the mouth makes that, we doing the thing. There are no questions asked. There are no answers given. We doing the thing right here. That's what that is. That is, and there are certain DJs in Chicago, certain house DJs, certain house songs that can instantly take me there. But there is also a way as a DJ, and really good DJs know this, that you can build the music, no matter what song it is, to take me there. And that's just me in the zone.
Yes, Mashaune.
Let's do it some more. Let's do it some more.
This might be another We Love Soul party. I really liked We Love Soul parties. Again, in the zone. And I have found a partner, which you cannot see here, because that is very crucial when dancing. Because you want somebody who is in the same space with you mentally, who's not going to ask you any kind of crazy questions on the floor, who's not trying to get your number, who is not trying to, find out any. We just here to dance. And you're going to look at me, and I'm going to look at you, and we gonna get there. And that's what that is. All right. Now we're going to talk about y'all. Dave Maxx and his memories.
Oh, man. Oh, okay. This is 2004. This is the year, the two trophies on the table are my first world's largest stepping contest wins. That DJ is the late Herb Kent, who was one of the major DJs on the stepper scene. And so this particular event, we honored him, a couple of other DJs, and about 20 of the legendary steppers who had impacted the journey that I had made in stepping. So there are about 300 people at this particular event. 99% of them are not from Chicago. Those were people that we brought to Chicago to have the real Chicago experience and to see if what we taught them actually worked. And so during that weekend, it wasn't until the third day that people were here. There were 4 girls from New York, and beautiful young ladies. And everybody's dancing with them. They dance from the people from California and what have you. And one guy says to a girl, "Why is it that you feel like you got to talk like you from Brooklyn somewhere?" She said, "'Cause I'm from Brooklyn." And it was at that moment that people here realized that people in other cities were learning how to step, because it hadn't moved out. In Atlanta, you would see remnants here and there because there's so many transplants in Atlanta from Chicago, but it hadn't officially moved to Atlanta yet. But this was that event. I'm giving Herb his his plaque, but also that night I gave my stepping instructor my trophy. And the reason I did that, because back then you didn't learn stepping in classes. You learned it on the side of the floor. And so you had to learn how to fit in, how to be a part of the community. And so a lot of times those dances were rejected. And so I gave him my trophy to show him that the work that he had done would move forward and that I would continue. There's a funny story about how I ended up teaching stepping, but we're not going to go into that. But I was thankful and grateful, and I wanted to make him cry, which we did. And when he tried to come up on me, stay out there crying in front of everybody. But it was an awesome day, and that's one of the most proud moments that I've had of all the things that I've done. This photo, these are the people who were the boots on the ground for getting stepping across the country. A lot of times people want to give the people in Chicago credit. That's cool, but the reality is I wouldn't have been able to do the things that I was able to do if these people weren't the boots on the ground to make it work. So the first couple of people are from Detroit, then Chicago, then Oakland, then Detroit again, and Oakland again, and then Cleveland, Ohio, and then New York, Detroit, Brooklyn, New York, the LA, Chicago again, Cleveland, Detroit, Chicago, LA, and the gentleman on the back end, he did our first class in London. And so that was our first, stretch over across the pond to really take the dance internationally. And so that's Knute Simpson. Oh, and this photo is part of an organization that I'm a part of called On My Own that supports fathers and the need for us to be present And this photo matters when it comes to stepping because this is what the original steppers fashion was. It was about making sure that we create images that were good representatives of how we saw ourselves. And so that photo is important. I usually don't wear a hat when I'm dancing. But one of the old things, just to give you a little history about stepping. On the dance floor, gentlemen should not wear their hats because you're dancing with a lady. The coolest thing I ever saw was a lot of times when the guys would remove their hats, their partner would hold their hat during the dance. So you would see her shifting this hat back and forth to different hands. Oh, it was awesome to see, but it never stopped the dance move. So it was beautiful to watch, but this is just speaking to the fashion of stepping and what stepper sharp is. There you go.
Yes, please do clap.
All right. So, is it a video? It is. Okay. All right. So this is mom and dad, and I want to speak to piggyback off that fluidity. Oh, that's my mama. That fluidity piece that Dave was just talking about, how, you can step and have a hat in your hand and it just still be a part of everything that's going on. And I just love this song, so I'm going to be quiet for just 1 second. It's by Marzette Griffin. So what's happening right now is they're stepping at my sister's baby shower, and nobody's paying them any attention but me with my cell phone. You'll see my aunt get up and go get a piece of cake, but I'm like, look at this beautiful moment that's just happening, and nobody's really paying. You'll see my aunt, oh, maybe you saw her already. But speaking to that fluidity piece, how it's just kind of just something that's in plain sight, and a lot of times you might miss it because you're so exposed to it. And so that's why I'm just grateful to have that tender eye and want to be able to capture and preserve. And look at mommy's happy smile, but it's just that love piece, as he was speaking to earlier. When we went off to school and, they might have been on the brinks of, breaking up. They started stepping together, and it definitely brought their chemistry back together. So it's a real thing. And there was something you were saying earlier, talking about that partnership and relationship piece, and that's something, that I was thinking in terms of bringing it into schools for young people so that they can work on sort of that leadership and leading and following kind of aspects of it, and that relationship and nurturing and building those memories together and learning how to be sacred with one another and gentle, just so many different elements that can be passed down through this dance. So.
Yes. Well, I want to thank you. I appreciate you opening up your spirit and talking to us about what makes you tick and the social dance that is a big part of your life, the art of bop and new bop.
Yes.
Look at me. Look at me. I'm excited. the art of bop and new bop. So to that, I want to say thank you very much. And if everyone would give a wonderful round of applause to Dominique Boyd, Riley, and Dave Maxx for sharing with us today. And thank you.